Hey guys, I'm Lucius Cookie, and this wasn't always a book bar. It was a regular bar for a while, but today I am sober. And I was sober yesterday and the day before and 363 days before that. Some people call it a year. Today or today-ish is my 1 year anniversary of saying goodbye to red French Merlots and hopped beers and Colombian whites and pills and sneaking away and hiding and doing things that I thought I needed to do to be able to function. I do want to say at the very beginning, I am not in any way a doctor, scientist. I have not studied addiction. I have no therapy credentials of any kinds. And if you need help, there are resources that we'll put in the link in description for people to find professional help. My only experience is first person from my own perspective. Everything that worked for me, I'll share, but it's not a cure-all. There's no way I can guarantee that it will help you. And in fact, in some cases, I could see how the tack that I took could hurt you or set you back. So please think of this for entertainment purposes and maybe someone to talk to in the future if you're having similar issues. I have a long history with alcohol that I'd like to talk to you about and maybe give you some insights from someone who's made it this long. And I've made it this long a couple of times and went back and why I think this time's different. So if you'll come with me, I'll tell you a very short story and I'll maybe help if you need it. So me and alcohol, the great thing I fell in love with first, started when I was 16, 15, around that time, pretty young, that I found my love for tobacco and alcohol. And it came from house parties and being a teenager and running around these hills that I call home, and there's not much else to do. So you go to a house party and you drink until you can't think, and you wake up and ask people what happened. And you hear great stories of triumph and shame and all that good stuff. And then you did it again because hangovers weren't a thing. Quickly, I got into production where alcohol and drug use is frankly rampant in a professional setting. It is all over the place. At the time when I started production, I was 16 years old, still in high school. I lied. I said I was 18 to be able to get into the floor, to even be insured. And I was hanging out with people who were 26, 27, 30s and 40s, and they were much more experienced with things like drugs and alcohol and introduced me to a whole lot of things. At this point, I want to say that it is nobody's fault for me being an addict and me being an alcoholic, except for this guy right here. 100% of the decisions I made were from my own consent. I decided that I needed to do these things to be able to fit in and feel better. And ultimately, those things didn't matter and it didn't make me feel better, but it didn't seem like that at the time. I was just, doing what they did, following through with that, trying to one up. Who can drink the most? Let's have a cake. Let's do all of that. I fell into those little traps. But the point is, all of this is not to shame any industry or people by any means. It's this guy right here who did the whole thing. There's actually been a quote from all people, Ron White, the comedian who holds a cigar in a scotch glass and talks about what he does when he's drunk. He's recently gone sober, and what he said in an interview is he believes, and he said this in jest, obviously, but he believes that there's a certain amount of alcohol that you are allowed to drink in your life. And maybe next time he'll drink his a little bit slower. And I think the same way, especially with me. I drank heavily, and that did lead into other types of uses of drugs. Usually my first experience with other drugs happened on the back end of a six-pack or a dirty 30 or a bottle of wine. You want to amp it up, get that liquid courage and continue. Not to say I wouldn't have gotten into those if I wasn't drunk. I mean, the opportunity was still there. It was still going on, but That's the way it happened for me. Got out of production, and I went to college and did the college thing, and that was pretty typical of most college experiences. A lot of parties, getting through classes to go to parties, being sick in class, just to be able to recover enough to go to the party. And I got back, and I quickly found work at a bar where I was partially paid in alcohol. Shortly thereafter, I was promoted to general manager of that bar, where I lived on top of the bar. I was at the bar 24/7 for 4 years. Lived there, worked there, drank for free there. A lot of things happened there. I left there because I saw that it was a toxic trait, but I didn't put 2 and 2 together. I knew I needed separation from that because it became too accessible. But I didn't carry that over to, now I'm out of this industry. Maybe you should look at like stopping drinking and stopping doing those things, those habits that you picked up there that you saw were dangerous. But I didn't. I continued doing those things into the professional industry. To the point to where I would stop drinking 4 hours before my shift, get 3 hours of sleep, and then show up to a job and work through it. My body was able to do that with the help of energy drinks and other legal substances until I got off the clock. And then it was the illegal substances that brought me to the next level. All of this is to say, it wasn't immediate. You know, it wasn't, I had my first sip and I was hooked. It was a series of decisions that I made to push through that. And I ended up here. Well, a few times ago, about 6 years ago, I quit drinking for 2 years. And that was, I called a check-in to make sure that I still had things under control. And it seemed that I did. And I decided I was going to start drinking again and drinking responsibly. But something had switched in my mind. And that wasn't something that I could do anymore. And it was just like putting on your favorite pair of jeans. It just fit perfect. And I picked right back up. And very quickly, I was back into the same old drugs, the same old routine, working through the day so I could work to alcohol, finding things that I could do while staying at home so I didn't drink and drive. Just making decisions in relationships, full family life, and professionally around alcohol. How quickly can I go from work to booze? That's what mattered the most to me. After that check-in, I drank for probably 2 years until I needed to do another check-in. And that check-in was really hard. That one, I got pretty violently ill, shaky, bad. And I didn't look at that as a sign. That was just a thing. You're getting older. This check-in is going to be harder. And I picked up drinking again, even started brewing beer after that. I still had a relationship with alcohol that was viewed in a positive light by me. I didn't put it together. I subconsciously might have, but it wasn't something that I was willing to see because I didn't want to change. I wanted to say I had control over it. I'm a functioning alcoholic, the thing over here that it really doesn't exist. Your function when you're an alcoholic like myself is to find ways to get alcohol into your system. You function through the elements that you have to so you can get this artificial satisfaction. Being able to be yourself and strive, all your goal set is to find booze to disable yourself isn't functioning. You may be able to gain social standing and have a positive career, but that's not living. That's hurting people around you, and I was blinded of that at the time. This last time that I got sober, it was a weird one. I didn't think about it. I just did it. I had a birthday party and it was great, and I drank and I went wild. Nothing crazy happened, and then 2 months maybe later I decided that's it. I think I'm done. And I took all my alcohol and I put it down the drain. Just did it. Didn't tell anyone, didn't do anything. I just poured it all out. And I didn't look back. And I knew in my mind this was not a check-in. This was something that I was going to carry with me through the rest of, well, hopefully, my life. Which is the first great big point. I today know that I quit for the rest of my life. Me tomorrow may hit a road bump and I start drinking. That's a problem with being an alcoholic and an addict. It can happen quick. That's the hard part, the struggle. Why everyone says being sober is hard. It's not because being sober sucks. It's because there's always this thing in the back of your head that says, I can make it better. And that thing for me is drugs and alcohol. That's what my mind goes to. It says it can make it better. But all of this is to say, if I am to go back to drinking, I need to consider it as a loss of a turn whenever I turn around again. I didn't lose. I didn't fail. It's a part of my journey to sobriety. That level of forgiveness that you need to give yourself if you relapse needs to be, because otherwise you'll drive yourself away from sobriety, because that's facing that you failed. You didn't fail. You lost a turn. You can get back and play that turn again and continue on your path of sobriety. I'm lucky enough to make it this 365 days without losing a turn. And that's what I'm celebrating today. The other thing, big thing, that I want to mention in the ways that I quit and the check-ins and why those check-ins didn't turn into a forever solution those 6 years ago when I first did a check-in is I never quit for me. There was always something else driving the reason that I'm quitting. I'm quitting so I can work better. I'm quitting so my relationship with my family gets better. All of these things can change. Work can change. Family can change. Hopefully spouses don't change, but we know that spouses change. And if you quit for them, what's the first thing that you're going to go back to is that old standby, is that alcohol, that booze, that addiction. All of that is there, just looming back there. This time I decided it was for me. I wanted to quit. Traveling through sobriety this time, know that I'm doing it for myself, knowing that it's not a check-in, that there is no end date, and that I can lose a turn, it gives me this cushion. I'm not walking on razor wire here. I'm not trying to dodge these bullets that are shooting around me that are addiction, these temptations, these whatever you want to call them. I am able to know that I'm safe and comfortable and doing everything that I can in this flawed body that I failed myself. I cut all of these wounds that are in me. It's something that I am going to have for the rest of my life. And it's something that I need to be able to forgive myself if something else happens. There's nothing to be ashamed of. And there's nothing that you can do that's going to damage yourself more than just giving up. All you got to do is keep fighting. And I know that's a huge ask. And I say all you got to do. But you just keep pressing and pressing and pressing. And if you press too far and you fall off the edge, you lost a turn. You'll come back around. I know it. I'm Lucius Cookie, and today I'm 1 year sober.